Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. This one is one of the season review podcasts, and this one is on the South Sydney Rabbitohs. So obviously quite a disappointing year for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. So this one, I'll definitely have a few of the talking points that we will discuss overall for a club that had such high expectations, and then obviously a few things happened throughout the year that we will openly discuss. I'm lucky enough to have Chaps with me from the Rabbitohs Radio Podcast. Chaps, thank you once again for jumping on and having a bit of a chat about your beloved South Sydney Rabbitohs.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me, Joel, mate. I talk South Sydney Rabbitohs all day, every day anyway, so might as well jump in here and chat to you about it, buddy.
Mate, I really appreciate it. Where can people find yourself? As I said, the Rabbitohs Radio Podcast for the South fans out there, or just rugby league fans in general?
Yeah, obviously, we're just an audio podcast. You can jump on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you find your podcast. And we've also got a YouTube channel, Facebook private listeners group on Facebook. And we've also got Twitter, or X these days, and Instagram page, mate. So there's plenty of ways you can find the Rabbitohs Radio Podcast boys. Myself, Darren Brown, former captain of the Rabbitohs and captain of the Penrith Panthers, and Big Les from Big Les's Rugby League Podcast. He's been jumping on the last 6 months and doing a great job.
Awesome to hear. So, as I said, rugby league fans or South Sydney fans in general, please go ahead, give them some love on the social media accounts, and obviously give them a listen or watch via YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Let's get stuck into it because there's a fair few things to talk about, and I want to be very respectful of your time as well. The South Sydney Rabbitohs, obviously not the greatest season as a whole. I want to get your thoughts, first of all, being the passionate fan that you are, obviously following the season a lot closer than probably I did. But what were your thoughts around the season?
It just didn't get off to a great start. I mean, you can probably go back to the previous year where there's a bit of infighting and a bit of hearsay going on at the back end of the year there. I think we got let go of one of the best players we've had in the last 30 years in Sam Burgess. And in hindsight, maybe they should have had to listen to him and maybe thought about letting go of JD at the end of last year, because the preseason was just marred by injury. I think we had 6 or 8 calf injuries going into the Christmas period. Campbell Graham didn't play 1 second of any trial or a main game in the season. Ben Lovett didn't play 1 second. There's 2 top 30 players that didn't play at all during the season. The trials weren't great. I was at the first trial there at Gosford where we got spanked by 60, which is very rare to get beat by 60 points in any game, let alone a trial by Manly. And it wasn't the greatest of starts to the season there. I think we were 6 losses, 1 win, and they ended up letting go of JD at the end of Anzac Day there, where we got touched up by the Storm 54-20 in round 8, I think it was, coming off a bye. And look, I thought they settled things down after that. You know, Ben Hornby was given a pretty tough job. Half the roster was injured. He sort of got him on about a 4 or 5 game winning streak at one stage, coming up against probably understrength teams, to be honest. I think we beat Parramatta without Moses twice or something like that, and knocked off a few other teams, I think, an understrength Brisbane Broncos, and finished the season limping into the final couple of rounds. We're just, as I said, mate, we're just understrength, undermanned, but look, the young blokes got opportunities, so it wasn't all bad.
Yeah, as you said, it was a battle, and it sort of did not start the right way at all. As you said, injuries and then performances on the field were impacted by that. After, I think it was round 11, only 1 win, 9 losses and a bye to throw in there. That was a sort of, you're always battling after that sort of a start. That's a horrible start by any means of the imagination. You mentioned I know it's a review of this season, but you've mentioned a big point there, and that's sort of the noise that happened late last year. And it felt like the writing was on the wall for JD, and in a way, Sam Burgess, I don't think he makes a lot of things up. He's very much a man of his word, and he'll just say it how it is, and a lot of people might not like that, but other people do like that approach. It felt like there was a lot of noise around your club, and it felt like there needed to be some changes to happen, and weirdly, not much seemed to happen apart from Sam Burgess was let go in the end. Whether, again, that was the right call or not, we'll never know looking back on it. But that JD approach and how that ended up unfolding, do you sort of look back at that now and just feel like letting him go at the end of last year was probably the right way to go and continue to move forward with perhaps Sam Burgess in a bigger sort of role?
Yeah, I'd probably do look at that because it's hard for me because JD had a pretty good relationship with JD. I interviewed him many occasions over a 3 or 4 year period while he was at the club, and used to message him from time to time there. But I think he was on a hiding to nothing there. As I said, with the injuries coming into the season, we just didn't come in. We looked off the pace in the ruck. We lost the ruck just about every play that first 10 or 12 weeks. We looked slower. We didn't look strong. We just didn't come in fighting fit. And I think that's all going to change next year with a new strength and conditioning staff coming in.
Yeah, perfect. In terms of some of that playing group, when their relationship with JD, it did seem like from an outsider's point of view, some of those bigger named players seem to have got away with a bit more with the club at that time. And that seemed to get roped in a little bit once Ben Hornby approached and Wayne Bennett obviously came and got announced as the head coach. Was that a sort of an issue as well, you thought, with the playing group? Just, that rope that they got extended, they seemed to take a bit for granted?
Yeah, I think that was more of an outside thing. I'm not sure whether that was happening inside the building, but that was just speculation, and no one really put their name to it, if you know what I mean. It was a bit of a hearsay, and a few of those outlets like Fox Sports and Daily Telegraph were sort of suggesting stuff like that, that's what they do. That's their job, and they're good at it. Let's be honest, no one throws out speculation like those guys. But look, they kept swinging, did their best. I mean, we only beat the Dogs in the end, I think. We had to go nearly 100% completion to beat them. It was pretty boring football. I was at that contest as well, and I think it was the right thing. JD just kept turning up and to the media there and doing his best to try and quell speculation. But there certainly was a shift in attitude when he was let go. I think Ben Hornby did a really good job under the circumstances. He's someone that could be a head coach in the future, no doubt about it. Benny Hornby, former premiership winning captain at the Dragons, obviously worked under Wayne previously. He's been coached under Wayne. Wayne comes in the building this year. He gets to step back a little bit and maybe do a bit more coaching. These days the head coach is more of a man manager, which no one's done a better job than that than the likes of Wayne Bennett and your Craig Bellamy's. They're quite happy to pass over responsibility to their assistants, to their strength and conditioning coaches to take a bigger role in their managers. So, it's going to be interesting to see what goes on. But it was a tough season, not only just for the fans, like they're the people that pay their money and turn up every week, the members, but just the people in and around the building that work there. I think it was tough for them, and also the players to have to front up every week, and you got to do your media, even though you're not going well, and you probably wasn't much of a chance of winning some of the games we were going into. So it was a tough one all around, mate.
Yeah, the last one on JD, obviously the handling of this year's sacking, I guess, and how as a fan you saw that, and we obviously know when caretaker coaches do come on board, it generally means season sort of write-off in a way, and it's sort of building for the future, and you really look to straight away look to 2025, for instance, for this one. What were your thoughts around that handling, and could it have been handled better, you thought, by the club, or you were pretty content with how that was?
Yeah, I mean, it was always coming. I think after the Roosters game, if you're a South person, you can't lose to the Roosters in that fashion. I think it was 48 to 6 or 48 to 12. I took my family out to that game, and I reckon 5 minutes into it, I turned to them and I said, "It's over. We're not in the contest." They were just marching up the field at will, and we did a pretty good job to keep it under 50, to be honest, that day. And I think the wheels started to go in motion then at a board level. I think there was a board meeting leading into that. JD didn't actually go to that meeting. They let him concentrate on the game. And I think if they didn't put up a better performance against them, they started to move towards an exit plan for him. They kept giving him as much time as they could. And to be honest, I think they just waited till they got the nod of approval from Wayne first. Yeah. As soon as they got the handshake agreement off Wayne, they strung it out for a few weeks, let him go, and then sort of then they made the announcement a few weeks later. I think they handled it pretty well under the circumstances the following year and this year, but I think things could have been handled a little bit better at the back end of 224.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could have been a bit more on the front foot sort of approach, but it was definitely handled as respectfully as it probably could because, as you said, the amount of noise that was around your club at some points at the start of this year was ridiculous in a way. And I don't know how the club, the playing group, the coach, anyone sort of could manage and do their jobs properly with the amount of noise and cameras probably outside of the league club and wherever players are training. It got beyond a joke in a way. One player I want to talk about early on that I think made a huge impact with the club was obviously the loss of Campbell Graham this year, who right up there last year in terms of one of the best backs in the game for the number, like probably the last 2 years, to be honest with you. And I think it hurt massively. It was a huge departure, injury, obviously a loss. I feel like he's got to the point now with this club where he's an influence sort of guy. He influences and gives confidence to this playing group. And to not have him for the whole year, that would have been a huge dent in the confidence of the Bunnies.
Oh, of course it was. You watch guys at different clubs play injured, and he done that last year for the club. I think it happened early in the season, a sternum injury. He battled on throughout the year. I think there was a 3-year period there where he was our most consistent player week in, week out. The difference between his best and his worst game was hardly anything every week. And Campbell Graham started to probably feel the pinch and kept needling up every game. I think there was one game up there at the Sunshine Coast, I think it was, against Brisbane Broncos, where Marty Tapau off the kickoff come and need him in the stern, and he just wasn't the same after that once he copped one there. He probably lost a bit of confidence. And yeah, from my understanding, he's got to change his tackling technique. He's sort of a bear hugger. He goes up and sort of wraps the arms around like that. He's got to change his technique to lower the dip and rip, mate, and use his shoulders now. So he's got a bit of work to do in the off season. But I understand he's 100% now. They're just being extra cautious with it because it's quite an unusual injury. The one he had, I don't know if anyone's ever played contact sport after it, so it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Yeah. He's a very determined. He's only 25 years of age, Campbell Graham. You feel like he's been around forever because I was at his debut. It was against St George at the SCG, 2018, I think it was. It was a while back there, but he's been around for a long time. He was on the verge of rep selection at the start of last year, but Coach Freddie Fittler decided not to use him due to an injury policy that he took into that. And mate, he's someone that's very well respected around our club, and I know the fans absolutely love him. Yeah, no,
I totally agree, and it's good to hear that he's basically 100%, looking to obviously get off on the right foot for this preseason, and really keen to see him come out next year and provide a spark, because I think what the flow-on effect for that was basically from round one, the backline took a hit, and it just didn't seem to have anywhere near the strike that we're used to the South Sydney Rabbitohs having on a yearly basis. It's funny because I feel like oppositions always know what the Bunnies are going to throw at them, but it's done that well that they can't stop it. And it just felt like this year, because of certain personnel who were either out of position or just not quite ready for that week in, week out NRL football, even though it was a sort of similar sort of plays, just that quality wasn't quite there. It had definitely a flow-on effect for your backline.
Yeah, it did. Defensively, like most teams try and attack your edges between your back row and your centre, basically, or anywhere around your halves. That's those three little spots that they're trying to hit every week. And when you lose someone as solid and consistent as Campbell Graham, it just becomes an attacking point for the opposition. They start looking at that and going, let's have a crack at that. And a lot of tries were scored where he would have been standing. And we chopped and changed a lot due to injury with our back row. But when Ben Hornby came in, he tried to keep as settled a lineup and as settled edges as we could. And I think it worked, putting Keon Kaloma-Tungi in the middle. It was a bit of a key feature there where we had 5 weeks in a row. We had over 200-plus metres. I think he's found a spot there, big Keon. But, yeah, Campbell Graham, really looking forward to getting the big stretchy boy back. Even if he comes in and plays on the wing, it doesn't matter. You need him in your team. Yeah. There could be a bit of shuffling going on, depending on what happens in the preseason. It all starts next week, I believe. or the week after, I think. They're going to go that first Monday of November and get in, and I think there's going to be a lot of blood, sweat and tears between now and this round one. I think the new strength and conditioning coach coming in is pretty tough, and he's going to flog them from pillar to post.
To be honest, it's probably something that I guess a lot of South fans are welcoming as well, that approach to just go out there and flog them after a disappointing year. So I think that's definitely warranted. Very keen to see this silly season starting to approach as well. The preseason, everyone coming back, potentially new signings coming as well. So it's a really crazy time of year, but I think as fans, we always love it because there's always things happening and the media stories start to run crazy, which, as you said, they're very good at what they do. You mentioned a couple of players there that I wanted to touch on as well. I've got written down here, Keon Koloamatangi, and then that impact also that it had on Cam Murray. And it's funny because I agree with you. I think Keon was huge this year once he got into that middle role and played that lock forward position. Now, it's funny because I always say Cam Murray for mine is the best representative lock forward in the game because I know Isaiah Yeo's so good at what he does, but I just think at the rep level, not being able to play that Penrith style does impact Yeo a little bit. And I think after this year, it shows he's a much better prop forward in that sort of system, where I think Cam Murray just suits that Blues style of play so well. And then with you guys, obviously, with Keon being that now lock forward and potentially could be that moving forward, being that role, Cam Murray looks to more so have that edge spot again, which he's currently playing for the Kangaroos and doing a great job at. I'd like to know your thoughts around it, how both of those work, and obviously Cam Murray being so good at the lock position, but the other thing is you want to protect his body a bit. He's getting bashed up and you don't want him week in, week out, I guess, in that middle, blowing his ass out basically that he does. He throws his body around. How do you find those two working together next year?
There was a few points there. I think Isaiah Yeo, I think you hit the nail on the head. I was talking to the head of the borough yesterday, Josh Kemp, about that same thing. And Cam Murray's I think he's a little bit wasted on an edge in the Australian team. I think he had one run for 5 metres at half time or something, 40-odd tackles by the end of the game. Yep. Look, he was on the right-hand side of the field. The 2 out of the 4 tries we scored, he ran a nice decoy. But I know Cam can be a lot better used if he sits in the middle. Isaiah, I reckon he's better at the front row, coming off the bench in front row like he does for State of Origin. He's the best lock forward club player in the game, I think, Isaiah. He's brilliant. We saw what he did in the grand final. I think he should have been Clive Churchill just about. He was unbelievable in that game. The other point there, Cam Murray, I don't care where you put him. There was times this year where me and Brownie were calling, we had no centres, put him in the centres. He's that good of a player. Put him out there. He's done a job for us before in semi-finals. Just get him out there. He can run a good line. You know he's not going to let you down in defence. And effort-wise, I don't think there's a better player to ever put on the red and green jersey in my lifetime than Cam Murray. He will just give you everything he's got. And Keon, I think he might find some time in the front row next year because we're light on big men in the front row with the loss of big Thomas Burgess. We've got a lot of really good, small, hard-working players that can play edge and middle. You're talking about Keon can play edge and middle, but he's a big man. I like to keep him in the middle at the moment. We've also got Jai Arrow who can play edge and middle. You've got Lachlan Hubner, the bloke coming in. He can play edge and middle. Benny Lovett, who's a guy they just re-signed and hadn't played a game this year. He's someone who's a bit of a wild card that could come in and do a job there. So, yeah, we've got a few options when it comes to middles and edges.
It's funny you mentioned those names. One name I love him as a player. I was a bit surprised it took him so long to get it back into the side this year. Tallis Duncan, talk to us about his year, because for mine it just seemed a bit perplexing that I felt like in 2023 he sort of had a decent sort of year whenever he got to play first grade towards the back end of that season. And then I just thought, and I did my season previews and put the South Sydney line, I thought he'd be almost one of the first picks from that because he's a young upcoming player. Give him some more game time, let him just evolve. But he seemed to be on the outer early on, and then he got picked. He started to play some sort of smallish minutes, and it grew as, I guess, the injuries in the middle and the forwards grew as well. It worked with him. But talk about his season, what you thought of it, and potentially his future at the club and where he could be playing.
Yeah, no, we love Tallis Duncan on the show there, mate. We talk about him every week. He's had some great moments early in his career. I think this year is one where he's settled into a position and played a fair role at the back end. I think he played a bit of lock because Cam was out at some stages. He actually put him on the edge. Finally, someone put him on the edge, which I'm so glad they did. Just a small edge player. Look, there's a few little things he's got to work around. Market defence, just a lot left on the ground there a couple of times at the end of the year. But they're all things you can fix. Like with Tallis Duncan, he's just got a great attitude. He's got a will to work off the paddock, on the paddock. He's got a great attitude. Comes from a great family. We've got to know his old man Kane over the years. He's a great guy. He's very supportive of his young bloke. And look, he's got a big future in the game. And I'm hoping at some stage he puts pen to paper and re-signs with the club.
I'm a huge fan of him, and I can't wait to see what he's got next year, because I think it could be one of his real breakout years, and we get to see the best of Tallis Duncan and this rise in his career, establishing himself as that first-grade player. I guess another player I want to touch on, and it sort of works in with your halves, which seemed to be a bit all over the place this year, and then there was the injury to Lockie Ilias that after he was dropped, unfortunately, but then there was a lot of cause early on to push Cody Walker into halfback, Whiten into 5'8", and once they did that, it seemed to work quite well at the start, and they got a couple of wins up, and then sort of faded away as the season sort of faded away as well. But your thoughts around, I guess, the halves and then Cody Walker's season, because I've heard a lot of mixed results about people and their thoughts about how Cody Walker played this year.
Yeah, well, Cody was another one of those blokes. He shouldn't have played in round one. He had the calf injury, and Cody's competitive nature, he refused to not play in round one. He went over to Vegas with no training under his belt. Set up, I think it was the second try. He had that out ball to Gagai, who scored his try on debut. And look, he took a few rounds to get going. I think he took maybe 6-8 rounds to really get going. Yeah, and Cody's nothing if your forward pack's not going forward and they're not dominating the opposition, or at least holding him. And our forward pack, they struggled at times this year without Junior Totola. He only played 6 games this year. He won the George Pickens medal only 2 years ago. So like you can't have your big names out. And Jai Arrow playing injured, or Cam Murray was in and out of the lineup with injury. We just missed that real spearhead. If you can't create space for Cody, it's a tough day out for Cody Walker. And no one can find an overlap when it's 3-on-3 like Cody Walker. He is freakish. The way he double pumps and holds the ball up at the last second. You only got to go and look at the game against the Dolphins, some of the tries he set up in that game up there in the high-scoring contest. Yeah, he's a special player, Cody. I think he's had a little bit of a clean-out on the dicky knee. We'll see how he goes in the off-season, but I'm sure he's a competitive guy. He's turning 35 in January, so there's a decision to be made there for the following year with him. I'd say he'll take a reduced contract and sign a 1-year extension. But he's on the sort of, I think he's closer to $1 million at the moment. He won't be signing for that figure, and that'll be a little bit of money freed up to spend somewhere else.
I want to quickly chat on Jack Whiten, because I think his year was really, really good, actually. And obviously a new signing for the club, was signed originally to play centre, who I actually thought once he got into the team and was playing and was centre, he actually did a really good job in that edge position. And then obviously, as we said, moved into the halves a little bit later on, and I still think played really, really well, really, really well. I'd have him close to the club player of the year this year. What were your thoughts on the new signing of Jack White? And obviously, it was impacted heavily by the injuries and not being able to establish his best version of himself. But I think he did very, very well to get close to that on a weekly basis.
Yeah, he really fitted in well to the team and the culture and the community around here. He loves living in the area. He pops down to the local board riders and stuff like that when they're not playing that weekend. The board riders club that I'm in, he's a champion bloke, and I thought he got better as the year went on. He was basically our Campbell Graham, our most consistent player, week in, week out. He doesn't stop trying. Look, he can kick one off the side of the boot every now and again and put it out in the full, but that's not from lack of trying. That's just Jackie he was just turning up in spots where he shouldn't have been. He's just an effort player, and Wayne is going to love coaching this bloke. He's going to get the best out of him. I think, look, he's probably best spot at times was at 5'8" this year, but I don't think that's the plan in round one to have him play at 5'8". I reckon he's going to try and secure a left centre spot, and Campbell Graham on the right if all goes to plan. You got Isaiah Tass, who just signed a 3-year extension. He's someone that will come into calculations whether he starts on the wing or in the centres, and who knows, they might want Campbell Graham to start on the wing, depending on the fitness of Alex Johnson, who had an Achilles injury, which is normally a 6 to 9 month recovery. Well, 9 months to the day is round 1 from the injury, so he could be ready for round 1. Knowing what Alex Johnson's like, he's very diligent with his rehab, and he hasn't had a lot of injuries in his time, but when he does have them, he seems to get back pretty quick. Old AJ.
It's an exciting backline already, looking forward to 2025, and especially I haven't even mentioned the likes of Munro, who I really, really rate as a player. I think he's an excitement machine, got speed to burn, obviously, and with a little bit of space created once you got the forwards back, and possibly with Wayne Bennett's little sprinkle of magic dust that he often has on his teams, I'm looking forward to seeing. It's funny. You've come from a year where you were screaming for backs to please be fit, to now it's looking like there's going to be 1 or 2 of these players that miss out who could or should be in a week-to-week sort of first grade spot. It's quite funny how it all quickly evens itself out and works. One final player to discuss, and I feel like he's always in the talking points and probably the main talking point since he signed for the Rabbitohs, obviously Latrell Mitchell. And I'm going to start this by saying my thoughts on Latrell this year as a non-fan, but putting myself in a South Sydney sort of Rabbitohs hat. And then I'll let you either correct me or go on from whatever I've said. And feel free to shoot me down, please. Look, I'd openly say I'm pretty disappointed in Latrell this year. And obviously he can't help the injury side of things, but I felt like just it's been another year where obviously big money player, haven't really got value for money again, I feel like. And it's probably the first year for my page. I've got a number of South fans messaging me saying, I'm actually starting to really get over this bloke. And it's starting to become a headache that I'd feel like the club doesn't really need. And then we get the off-field stuff, and we get the Latrell who sort of is in his own world in a way. And we know that that's the sort of player he is now. But at the same time, with the club having such a difficult year, it would have been good to see him a bit more on the front foot with the club and being a lot more of that sort of clubman. And then obviously we've seen what he got in trouble for. We don't want to delve in too much, but that was quite disappointing as well. So overall, I don't know where to go with Latrell and the South Sydney relationship. It just seems to not quite ever be as glue. Like it just always seems to be something happening there.
Yeah, look, I'll do the press conferences for the media when, all the different outlets come. And I've never been at a press conference where they don't ask her a question about Latrell. And it could be any player in the team, could be coach. There's always a Latrell question. The media is absolutely obsessed with him. That's the biggest problem with Latrell is the media is obsessed with him. Not Latrell. They are obsessed with him. He's the first person they want to get because they know that anytime they write an article about him, it's going to get more clicks than any other player in the competition. Yeah. And they make money out of clicks and ads and whatnot, and it just snowballs from there. So they sort of, a lot of that's created. What if I told you that Latrell Mitchell had the second most try assists per game in the NRL this year behind Ben Hunt, and more than Nathan Cleary, more than Jerome Hughes, more than any of them, Sam Walker. He had more try assists per game than Sam Walker and Jerome Hughes and Nathan Cleary this year.
In a weird way, it wouldn't shock me because he's that kind of player.
Look, when he's on the field, he's the most unbelievable footballer. We just haven't seen a full season out of him at the Rabbitohs for various reasons, injuries, suspensions, and the likes. Focus, he seems to lose focus at times. I don't know whether he gets bored with the game at times, but I think he came back from injury and he just was a bit underdone. He's one of them blokes, he needs a good pre-season, couple of trial games, and he starts coming good about round 5. If he can get all those boxes ticked in the off-season and hopefully can play all those games, he could have one of those breakout years that we know he's capable of. Like, he could play anywhere. I'd love to see him play at 5'8", to be honest, a bit like a Brad Fittler style. Because when it comes to ball skills, I think he's the best ball player over 100 kilos I've seen in my lifetime. He doesn't even look and hits like 20 metres on the chest. He can kick the ball as good as anyone, whether it's short kicking, long kicking, goal kicking. Mate, he's a freakish player. Could we see a bit more out of him? Yeah, of course we could. But I think it all comes down to a good pre-season. At the moment, he's fit and healthy. He's doing all the right things at the moment. He's been training leading into pre-season. He's doing all the right things recovery-wise, ice bath, saunas and all that. And a big one's diet for Latrell. He's got to make sure he's eating all the right foods and whatnot, and I'm sure he's doing that at home. Yeah. And he's just a dead set match winner. And I was looking at some statistics the other day. I was thinking, I was trying to compare him to his time at the Roosters and South. And again, percentage-wise, he's won more games for South Sydney than he's been more influential at South than he has been at the Roosters, and he won 2 comps there. Now, that's another little stat that might blow your mind if you think. Go and look that one up on Rugby League Project. Yeah. Win percentage at South, win percentage at the Roosters.
Look at that. And look at the teams that the Roosters had at that time as well. It was pretty sensational. As I said, like with Latrell as well, he's on a Dylan Edwards fullback. He's on a Clint Gustafson fullback. No. He's not one of those real big workers. He's a different fullback. And it's more so, I guess, it's up to Wayne now to work out and establish what he wants of him moving forward, and then get the best out of him. I've got no doubt in my mind Wayne is the man for the job to do that. And South will be probably the most confident they've been since having Latrell that he'll get a very good season out of Latrell Mitchell. I want to quickly give a massive wrap, and you've already done so with Ben Hornby, who I think did a remarkable job where in a season where it was probably, as I said, it was sort of backs against the wall and sort of season was already gone by the time he took over as head coach. But he really, really impressed me, and to the point where I think he's probably next cab off the rank for a job, a first-grade coach in the NRL. So I'm really excited to see that. But just from your point of view, obviously you've already mentioned a little bit, but just go a bit more into Ben Hornby's year. And if I don't know how much you got to deal with him, but yeah, he was just super, super impressive.
Yeah, he was. He's a no-nonsense sort of guy. And he gets down and he's a straight shooter. He was completely honest with the media, and sometimes he was too honest with the media. I think he needed to play the game a little bit more, where he came out and said Latrell's not coming to training a few times and whatnot. I think he should have kept that one to himself. But no, I think he's done a great job. I've done a few little shorts and stuff like that on their YouTube channel about that. And look at some of the guys that debuted this year, and like Joe Gray and exciting guys like that. Your Liam LeBlancs and the likes. I think they all benefited from having the cool, calm experience. Ben Hornby around him, even your Dion Tiapa, who had his moments this year, had a few opportunities due to injury. It was very impressive to see. Even Fletcher Myers coming over late in the year. He did a pretty good job when he came in. He's got a bit of power when he's in his carries and a bit of speed, a little bit to learn defensively. Quite a bit lost there at times, but that's just a young bloke coming in, a different level, a different speed. But Benny Hornby, he did a good job. He certainly got the best out. There was certainly no infighting going on when Ben Hornby was there. He sort of got all the boys on the same page. And you're seeing guys even rise and lift. And a guy like Tane Milne, he's played his best football of his career under the coaching of Ben Hornby. At times, he was our best player on the field. Yeah. And you've seen what he's done for Fiji on the weekend in the back row. Look, he's not signed at the moment, but look, maybe they might bring him back and have him as a backup in the outside backs and a backup on the edge.
It's a pretty remarkable effort, because a lot of people say the assistant coaching up to that head coaching is completely different. Assistant coach, you get to be their mates. You get to be. It's quite more of an easier sort of job. And then head coach, you sort of got to change all your approach. But it felt like Ben Hornby balanced that up perfectly, and was still sort of that matey sort of guy, but in a really good way, in a respectful way. And he got absolutely the best out of a number of those players. One departure I want to quickly touch on before I go on into some of these quick rapid fire questions with you is a few people have mentioned having a bit of flashbacks with the Damien Cook departure. And I say that obviously with the flashback of Adam Reynolds and not holding on to him, and then seeing what happened throughout that. What are your thoughts around the Cook departure? Because I actually think he had a very underrated season this year. I thought he was very, very good for you guys. So the timing of it, obviously, are you disappointed with losing Cook, or you're understanding the business decision?
Yeah, I understand it's a business. I think South are trying to free some money up to have a bit of movement. We had a lot of guys in the top end over that $800,000 mark, and they were trying to free some of that up. I'd say they'd be paying a bit of Damien Cook's contract for him to play against him at the Dragons over the next couple of years, and that's the way it goes, and gives an opportunity to another young guy. I think they're just really... You got Peter Mamazoulis, you got the Player of the Year in the New South Wales Cup, Ryan Gray. He's just been re-signed with the club on a second-tier contract. He'll be given a train and trial in the off-season. Jamie Humphries comes in, have an opportunity. But a guy like Lachlan Ilias, I'd love to see him have a go at hooker. He's got some great traits. He's a great trainer. Him, Damien Cook, Cam Murray lead everything at training. All the sprints, all the physical side of things. He's very strong. Cut out of granite. We know he's got speed. We've seen him run down Jason Saab in Vegas from the opposite side of the field. He's got some experience now. He's played over 50 games first grade. And down the middle of the field, you want to have a good defender, don't you? So him and Peter Mamazoulis could be in rotation at some stage. They're both really good mates. I think the two of them and Blake Taff went over to watch that UFC in Abu Dhabi on the weekend. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them in a hooker rotation at some stage of the season.
Yeah, that'd be awesome for Lockie, because it felt like Braith at times on NRL 360 were pushing for a bit of a release and trying to force the club's hand in a way. But it's good to see him, if that's the case, staying with that club, getting through the rehab side of things. And I do agree with you. He definitely has a bit of that 9 quality about him. Couple of rapid fire questions for you to finish things up. Sort of your key moment of the year.
Well, I guess the key moment we sort of covered it was Jason Demetrio getting let go after round 8. I think it was. That was a key moment. But I won't. We've already sort of touched on that one. But I might go on another key moment was when Tyrone Munro was out the majority of the season with a couple of collarbone injuries back to back, and coming back into the lineup, having some personal tragedy. I think it was his mother and his uncle passing away within 48 hours. And then him turning up at Penrith Park and easily our best player on the field, scored a double. I was lucky enough to be out there that day as a guest of the legendary Royce Simmons, him and his missus. And I bolted down at the end there to be in the corner then when all the South Sydney staff and players came over to be with Tai's younger brothers and sisters, and they got a photo down there. It was really emotional, wasn't? There was a lot of tears in that corner down there, and he's an exceptional young man. He's really good family friends with Josh Adokar. Now, Josh has probably had a bit of negative press, but Josh, you've never seen Josh look unfit in your life. He trains the house down. He's always pretty muscly and bulked up, and I think that's something Ty's going to look to do because he's a pretty big guy, Tyrone Munro. Yeah. Once he fills out, he could have a really big future at this club. And, again, he'll be fighting to try and get a start in round 1 in that Wayne Bennett's first team that he names.
It's funny, I actually wrote down exactly the same answer because it was such a good moment, very touching moment as well. I remember watching it, having goosebumps a number of times throughout that game and thinking to myself, I don't know how he's doing it right now, obviously what he's gone through. That huge week that he had, everyone would have been anticipating him just say, I just need that week off to just get my head right. But he didn't, and he was, as you said, the best player on the field. And huge credit to him and how he can. Obviously, he has got great mental strength, so that was huge. And it was great to see everyone get around him, the players get around him, and I feel like the Penrith Panthers players as well got around him, especially at the end of the game, and that mutual respect there. So that was a great moment. Surprise packet of the year.
Oh, that's an easy one, mate. Jai Gray, the little mighty mouse, come down from Queensland and had injury-plagued season his first year down here in the lower grades. I went out to his first trial where him and Tyrone were in the same team, him, Ty Munro, and a few of the other guys. I think Hazen Mellors is the other one. They all played a trial game against Canterbury. He set 4 tries up and scored 2. And his second try that he scored pulled his hamstring and he just plagued him the whole season. After that, I don't think he played one SG ball game. He fought his way back, played a bit of flag late last year, looked impressive, done his hammy in Canberra again. And then he really had a big pre-season. And he drove them mad. Like a lot of the opposed sessions and the simulated sessions they were having in February, mate, he was the best player in the field, and I'm including Latrell, Cody, Cam Murray. He was just by far and away the best player in the field every time I knew it wasn't going to be long before they had to play him. He was carving up the Reggies. And he come in, and obviously everyone's going to knock his size, but you only had to watch the one-on-one tackle that he had up there and up against the Dolphins. I think it was Jack Bostock from memory. Mate, this kid's all heart, mate.
Yeah.
78 kilos up against big Jackie Bostock, just manhandled him and held him up over the line. He's a special talent, and I think the long-term plan is to get him in at 5'8" when Cody Walker hangs up the boots.
Mate, I'm looking forward to seeing how he works into this 2025 team, because I think he almost has to have a spot in there, and he's that really live wire that I think that club definitely needs, and it's a joy to watch him. I'm with you. It was an easy one, this one. So Dry Gray for mine as well. He had a sensational year for the Bunnies. Who needs a big 2025?
Look, I'm just going to circle the entire forward pack. I think we really need to have competition there. We didn't have a lot of competition. Basically, there was times there if you were fit, you had to play. Yeah. It was like that. Some folks who normally would play reserve grade in the lead up, they'll just get your boots on. You're out there. We've got no one else. Like Matty French, who's played a lot of reserve grade over the last couple of years, mate, he got his opportunity through a lot of injuries against the Dragons. Matty only got 12 or 13 minutes. A lifelong South fan. Mate, guys like that. We even had to bring down what was it? That Gurmat Shibasaki. He was only got one training session and played, and they sent him home again back to Queensland. So that's how short we were. But I think the forward pack, mate, it's got to be. I think Davey Mawali is only a young fella. He took a lot of big steps this year. It's the first time he's really cemented a starting spot. He's someone that's going to take a step. We need Junior Totola, who honestly has had two really injury-plagued seasons, coming off winning the George Piggins medal at the club. That's the players' player of the club. He's I think they're saying he's going to be right by probably early December, 100%. He's still not 100% yet. So he needs to have a big December, January, February to get in and be nice, fit and strong and hard. And I think these forwards are got to get in the weights room and really get competitive in the weights room, get bigger and stronger, and a little bit quicker too, because the game is going so fast now. Your forwards have got to be pretty quick, and you want them as strong as possible. And I think they can do that. You're going to have a few little smokies that have just probably stepped under the radar. Like I mentioned, Benny Love earlier. I love Liam LeBlanc. I love the way he's front on defence. I thought he should have got more minutes at the back end of the year. And obviously a young guy who I've always had a big opinion on is Thomas Fletcher, big second rower, Coonamble boy. He's just been injury plagued the whole time. He's been at the Bunnies, unfortunately. So he's looking to have a big pre-season and to try and win a contract going forward. Both of them are off contract, I think, Liam and Thomas Fletcher. Thomas Fletcher, a former Australian schoolboy. He's that real Trent Waterhouse style back rower, big square shoulders. He's going to get himself bigger and stronger, and hopefully he was almost competing for a spot in Vegas, to be honest. He wasn't far off, but he had a head knock in, I think, one of the trials against the Chookies or someone like that, and it just set him. It might have been the Charity Shield, actually, and it just set him back on a bit of a course where he just ran into a few injuries.
Look, one thing I'm learning quickly with having this chat with you is there's a lot to like about the future of the club and where it's headed, and there's a lot of really good young kids coming through, which is an awesome and exciting time for the club after, obviously, a lean couple of years. For mine, look, it's the media darling, obviously. I think Latrell Mitchell does need to have a big year. You've mentioned his stats and stuff, and 100% it stands out. And we know I think that's why I'm putting him down, because it's so frustrating. We know how good he is, and I feel like as a league fan, I love to watch him on the field. I love to watch him play. So a big year for him in terms of making sure he's on the field, doing what he can body-wise to making sure that's always at 110% and just leading and being that leader on the field and off the field for that club. And as I keep saying, I think Wayne is honestly the best man to get the best out of Latrell Mitchell. Who was your player of the year?
My player of the year, I think it was Jack Whiten. He just as I said a bit earlier, he just got better and better as the year went on. And again, he's a guy that you don't have to question what his workmanship, what he's doing at training. He's always going to be leading everything there. He always looks big, strong, and fit. He plays the whole game. He never gives up on any play, mate. I thought he was our best player of the season 2024.
This is the first time I've agreed so many times with someone on these podcasts, but I am with you.
Jack White,
I had written down as well. I thought he was sensational, covered obviously both centre and the 5'8" position when required, and I thought he was absolutely sensational. Coming over from a new club, having to learn the systems, and he just felt like he had been a South Sydney player for years now, so that's a huge credit to himself and how hard he obviously worked in that pre-season to get to where he was with that club. So shout out to you.
I think, look, just a quick one, Joel, on him. I think some of the players would think they owe him a big season. This bloke, I think he turned down more money at Canberra to come to South. It wasn't about the money. He come up to play. He's played over 250 games. He's an experienced guy. And if you're going to go out and recruit a guy like that, you don't want him to come up for a holiday. You want him to come up and work and be competitive with everyone and obviously get along with everyone. I think that's what he done this year. And I think the players, not only they owe it to themselves, but they owe it to someone like Jack White and to get out there and get a few wins on the board for Jackie next year.
Definitely. As I said, this is Chaps, obviously, from the Rabbitohs Radio Podcast. So if you want to hear more of the Rabbitohs, sure, go ahead, give them a listen, give them some love again on the social media side of things as well. I think what we've established today was obviously a hugely disappointing season, but there is definitely some bright spots and sparks ahead for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Chaps, really appreciate you jumping on. I know you've been super busy, but I appreciate you being able to come on and have a chat all things South Sydney.
No worries, mate. Yeah, if you like what you heard from myself, you can also listen to Brownie and Big Les there on Rabbitohs Radio Podcast YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe, and we've got plenty of videos there and interviews on our. We've been going since 2018, so we've got a fair few interviews. Anyone from Sam Burders to Latrell Mitchell, all the coaches, CEOs. And we even had Andrew Denton on one, so there you go. So you can go back and listen to all that sort of stuff. It's fantastic for you to give me a call and give me an opportunity. Thanks very much, Joel, and hope you have a big year. And I can't wait to tune in and listen to all your content, brother.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it. And just personal one, please try and get Wayne Bennett on. Please go and get the great man on.
I've only interviewed him. I've interviewed him on Zoom many times. Actually, over the years, there was this one story. I woke up from night shift and it was during COVID, and there was a breaking story about Wayne went and lunch at bloody Grappa or something. You probably remember it. And the media was into him for about 6 or 7 minutes, and I was just having my headphones in. I hadn't had a question yet, and I just out of the blue I said, "Was it a good food, Wayne?" And he just started laughing. He goes, "Yeah, I highly recommend it, mate." I said, "Do you mind if I ask a footy question?" He said, "That'd be great." It was just all about him going and all the journos up in. There's a couple of ones out of Brisbane, Channel 7. They were into me, mate, on Twitter and that. What are you doing? We had a breaking story, and you. Anyway, that's the way it goes, mate.
Mate, there you go.
Wayne owes me a beer or a food grapper anyway.
I was about to say you laid the foundations now with him, so you'll be all good getting him on. So guys, make sure you go give Chaps and his fellow hosts some love on the Rabbitohs Radio Podcast. Hope you've enjoyed the potty. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. And I guess go the Rabbitohs for 2025.